Now let's come to the US perspective. The Communication Act of 1934, as amended by the Telecommunication Act of 1996, defines two categories of uh, entities relevant here. First, the information service provides those that offering a capability for information via telecommunication. The US Title 1520 are subject to mandatory regulation by the FCC to common carriers under the Title 2 of the Act. Conversely, telecommunication carriers, that is, these offering telecommunication for directly to the public regardless of the facilities used, section 15 clause 46 are not subject to mandatory title regulation. These two classification originated in the late 1970s as the Commission developed rules to regulate data processing services offered over telephone wires. Regulated telecommunication service under the 1996 Act, that is, to analog with basic service under the prior regime, the Computer 2 rules. These rules define power such as pure or transparent transmission capability over a communication path, enabling the consumer to transmit an ordinary language message to other point without computer processing or storage of the information, such as via telephone or fast mail. Under the 1996 Act, the information service is the analog of enhanced service defined by the Computer 2 rule as computer processing application that act to subscribers information such as voice and data storage services, as well as protocol conversion, that is the ability to communicate between networks and employ different data transmission formats. Now let us come to the important decision of Brand X. National Cable and Telecommunication Association versus Brand X Internet is a United States Supreme Court case. The Supreme Court therefore upheld the FCC determination that a cable internet provider is an information service and not a telecommunication service, and such a competing internet service provider, like Brand X Internet, were denied access to the cable and phone wires to provide home users the competing internet service. The chair, Michelle Powell of FCC, decided in a statement that the consumer originated open access policy should persuade ISPs to avoid discrimination. In February 2004, he declared, I challenge the broadband network industry to preserve the following internet freedom. First, freedom to access content, freedom to use application, freedom to attach personal devices, and freedom to obtain services plan information. The fourth freedom was applied in the Internet Policy Statement of Madison River in the AT&T and Verizon mergers and the Comcast action. The first regulatory action to prevent blocking of access was against a small ISP that had been blocking a rival VoIP service, Madison River. It was a case it was an important case in many ways. The abuse was inconvertible and defined a legitimate business practice. The vertical integration of the ISP with the voice telephone service meant it had obtained incentives to block the competitor and provide practice which was intended to degrade the customer's internet access. FCC therefore made a 2008 order against Comcast, a major cable broadband ISP, stating the P2P application BitTorrent in May 2005-6 slowed by the use of such a technology. The FCC ruling was against Comcast, stating that any attempt to stop P2P by sending platforms RST and reset packets to consumers clearly reflects that the VoIP blocking in Madison River in 2005. The Comcast case also showed that the use of DPIs to discriminate between providers of P2P was also condemned in strong terms. Comcast practice are not minimally intrusive as the company claims, but rather are invasive and have significant effects. FCC concluded that the Comcast conduct blocked internet traffic, rejected Comcast defense that the practice contains reasonable network management, and also concluded that the anti-competitive harms caused by the Comcast conduct have been compounded by companies' unacceptable failure to disclose the practice to the consumers. Now let us come to the most important order, the FCC Open Internet Order of 2010. In December 2010, the FCC approved the FCC Open Internet Order, banning a cable television and telephone service providers that preventing access to competitors of certain web related activity such as Netflix. On December 2010, the FCC voted on the base of 6 principles of net neutrality. First, transparency. Second, no blocking. Third, level playing field. Fourth, network management. Fifth, mobile related services. Sixth is vigilance. The Open Internet rules went into effect from June 12, 2015. They are ensuring consumers and businesses have access to a fast, fair and open internet. The new rules apply to both fixed and mobile related services. This approach recognizes advancement in technology and the growing application of mobile broadband internet access in recent years. This rule will prevent consumers as to this the rule will protect consumers no matter how they access the internet, whether or not they are using through desktop or by a mobile device. The important concept now comes is of a bright line rules. Bright line rules include that there should be no blocking, no throttling, no paid prioritization, and these 3 principles should be the basic tenet of the bright line rules. In the Verizon case, the question came again whether the formality of the order of the Internet Order of 2010 applies or not. The Supreme Court held in favor of the federal court held in favor of Verizon, saying that yes, FCC was wrong in claiming it to be a Title 2 Chapter 2 party. But then in the case of USTA versus FCC, the court finally in 2016 upheld Open Internet Order and thereby promoting online speech and its discriminatory while propounding net neutrality. Net neutrality became a significant issue together with graduated response in the voting on the first reading of the 2009 telecommunication package. In May 2009, the European Parliament voted down the reforms of the first reading prior to imminent parliamentary election in June. Amendments on consumer transparency and network openness were offered to the Parliament in the conciliation process, collated in the European Commission Declaration on Net Neutrality applied to 2009-14-EC. In December 2011, BEREC came with the guidelines on transparency and other such services. This is the type of detailed guidelines that the subject could call out for, including for instance network preference and other such activities. However, on transparency, BEREC states that probably this single method will be sufficient and points to open access and such related services. Now let's come to the aspect of network neutrality and Constitution of India. United Nations has officially declared and adopted internet access as a right, which also is affirmed by 47 nations across the world. The right to access internet has been made part of the MDG as a formal target. India's government through the public kiosk program has also incorporated internet as an outreach program. Internet essentially facilitates the unenviable right to freedom of speech and expression under Article 19(1)(a) of the Constitution of India. The case at point is Maneka Gandhi versus Union of India. It held that the freedom of speech and expression has no geographical limits and it carries out with the right of a citizen to gather information and to change thoughts with other not only in India but abroad as well. Consequently, in the case of Secretary of Ministry of Information and Broadcasting versus Cricket Association of Bengal held that the right to impart and receive information through electronic media as a fundamental right. Further, recently in the celebrated case of Shreya Singhal versus Union of India, relying on the case of Kameshwar Prasad versus State of Bihar and Kedarnath versus State of Bihar, and given the facts and the offences created by section 66A is not covered under Article 19(2), that is the restriction clause. Rather, it is vaguely worded. The Supreme Court rightly said section 66A violates the constitution. It thus gave a right to freedom of expression to the internet, which provides for various expression on social media. However, the next case before the High Court was of Gaurav Sarabhai Vyas. In this, the petitioner challenged that the government's right to prohibit internet access during section 144 CRPC proceeding, that is in the interest of public interest, can the government prohibit the access to the internet? The High Court of Gujarat said under section 144 of CRPC, the court rightly has upheld that they can block internet access to maintain peace and preservation of national security. Now to conclude, clearly the net neutrality is the fundamental aspect of public internet and open internet. We should preserve it, and so is the opening of various net neutrality consultation papers and various decisions that have come out in US and India, which have clearly stated that internet should be open and free to all. Now this, we have come to the end with the module on net neutrality. For further details, go to module and then do the self assessment at the end of module.